Okay, so recording has started. Sorry. So as I said earlier, if you know this, that is draw.io. So I recommend draw.io for you guys. It is a free open source application, web application that you can use for your architecting, right? For your diagrams. Okay, so this is exactly what we are going to do here. In fact, I was slightly busy today, so I have to 30 minutes. I have to quickly jump in and then try to do something for you so that you guys will know what we're about to do. Okay, so one, we have our that is AWS, and that is our cloud here, and then we also have within the cloud we have our VPC, and then with the VPC we have our region, right? And our region is what US is one. Okay, so you can see, and Virginia. So that is the US East one. Okay, US East one. That is our region. Okay, and then within our region we have availability zones. So this portion is availability zone A, and this portion is availability zone B. Okay. So why these zones? So we know that as a cloud architect or a cloud engineer, when you are deploying an app, you need to think about availability, right? That is, your app is uh, redundant. That is, in case if one server fails, the other is also there to keep your app running, right? So when you are deploying your app, you need to think about availability. So this help us to uh, that is configure our application into availability zones. Okay, so we have availability zone 1, and then within the availability zone 1, we have the same architecture, that is public subnet, and then 2 private subnets within one availability zone. Okay, so in the public subnet, we have what is called the ALB. So the ALB stands for application load balancer, right? So what is application load balancer? So application load balancer is indeed a load balancer, as the name goes. So what it does is just receive an incoming traffic, okay, and distribute it across multiple servers. So assuming you have 2 servers, so in this case we have one server in availability zone 1 and then one server in availability zone 2. So in this case, if a user is trafficking, okay, is bringing a traffic into your application, so what the ALB does is it will just take the traffic and then give it to the healthy server. Okay, so the ALB will stand here. So ALB will stand here. Excuse me, I'm coming. So the ALB will stand here. I'm trying to adjust it. Okay, so the ALB will stand here. Okay, and then if this zone is not healthy, okay, or if this zone is busy, so much busy, and this one is free, okay, that is, it is healthy enough to be able to receive the traffic that is coming in. What the ALB will do is to channel the traffic to this place. Okay, so it will stand in between here and then make sure that the traffic that comes in is balanced. Okay, the traffic comes in is balanced. Okay, so if it channels the traffic, okay, to availability zone A, okay, then that first interface, okay, that is called the ALB, is the presentation layer. So in this case, we have segregated, okay, our architecture into what? 3 layers. So this is the recommended way of you to deploy a 3-tier architecture. Okay, it is being recommended that when you are deploying an application, you should think more of what? Availability, scalability, okay, and then security, right? So our VPC has already been configured in what? In 3 layers. That is presentation layer. So the presentation layer is the first layer that is being exposed to the public. Okay, so that is where the clients or users interact. These are the servers that the users interact with, right? And the application layer is also called the logic layer. So the logic layer is where your app really relies, okay, and it relies within the subnet or the private subnet. So this one is not exposed to the internet. Okay, this is within the private. And then this one application layer speaks to the database layer. So this is the database layer, and it is also in our private subnet. And this contains the actual data, right? So these two should not be exposed to the internet directly. So we already talked about private subnets. We already talked about public subnet. Okay, so the users will just have to connect to the public subnet. And if you connect to the public subnet, then you can speak to our service that is within, or the application layer. And then the application layer will continue to speak to what? The database in the database layer. Okay, so that is how it works. Okay. All right. So we are going to look at IAM, and we are also going to look at Session Manager. So why these two services? Okay. So you guys have already been introduced to IAM, right? So you know what is IAM. You know that IAM is an identity access management that is used to create users and also give access to users, and also roles or services to other services in AWS, right? It gives you the privilege to define who and what you can access within the AWS services. So this is the master services that is behind all these things, right? And then we have the session manager. So the session manager, in other architects or in other diagram, people use what is called the basin host. Okay, so what is basin host? So basin host is something like also another EC2, right? So let me copy this. It's also another EC2. It's also another EC2, okay, that's in a security aspect, or let's say in a real scenario, you want to be able to access your private subnet, right? But your private subnet cannot directly be accessed from the internet. You know that because this is within the servers are within our private subnet. Our database is within the private subnet. So in this case, how will we be able to access these private instances? Assuming if you want to update a package, install a software, you know, upgrade the packages, okay, and all security packages, we want to install something and update it. We need an internet connection so that we can do all these things, right? So people use, or other people use what is called the basin what basin station, okay, or basin server. That's how people call it. So what it does is they play the basin server in the public domain. Okay, so assuming if your ALB or your presentation layer is only exposed to port 80, that is the web application. Okay, you don't need to expose your application, let's say port 2222 receive incoming traffic of, let's say, SSH, right? So what they does is they use what is called a single point, okay, to access service within your AWS resources. So this EC2 is being deployed within the public subnet, and this only base station is exposed, or they configure the SG for SSH. So when they SSH into the base station here, this one, that is where you can SSH into, or you can access into your private subnet or private instances within your private subnet. Do you get me? So users that directly access your application load balancer service don't have access to this EC2, sorry, this base station here. It is only the admin that has the SSH key, okay, and the SSH port is open to access this one before you can access the instances within your private subnet. Okay, so those are the security ways to deploy, okay, EC2, so for you to be able to access your private instances. There is also another method where you can use the session manager, and this gives more
Please, before you go on, can you go over that part again?
which part, please?
The security.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, I didn't
So
get it too well.
okay, sure. So now we understand how public and private subnet works, right? The public subnet has what is called a public IP address. Okay, so within your public subnet, your public servers are being exposed to the world, right? And this public subnet basically will contain our web application, right? So this is what users actually directly connect to, right? But these private subnet instances, okay, they don't have access to connect to it directly. So these are within your private subnet. Okay. So now, if assuming these instances within your private subnet, you want to update something because they are service, right? That you are accessing or you want to access. You want to update package, okay, or you want to update your OS, or you want to download something from the internet, right? You will need an internet so that this one will be able to go out within or outside the AWS service to download, right? So we will talk about NAT gateway very soon. And this base station here, okay, you don't want to expose your web application, or you don't want to open the port for SSH, okay, within this public subnet or within this web app, because for security wise, you want to only open port 80 for your web users to only access the port 80, right? So assuming you have certain applications or ports that has been opened within this one and you need to access it, and here is the case that you don't want to expose or open the port for this ALB port, public subnet. So here is where the base station comes in. Okay, so there will be an instance, a separate instance. Engineers will just deploy a separate instance for such purposes, and this instance is being deployed within the public subnet. So I would say this instance here has internet or public IP address. Okay, and then this one, the port of SSH will be open. So what it does is, if I want to connect to this private instance here, right? First of all, I need to connect to this instance, this one, from my machine locally. So wherever you are, I will be able to connect to this instance Okay. Then when I have successfully connected to this instance, then I will be able to connect to these private instances. Do you understand?
Yes, yes.
Hello, hello,
Yeah, come in.
hello.
Yes, come in.
Yes, if I actually got you right there, the base station basically is deployed and within the public subnet, which will help you to have a connection with the private subnet, if I get you right.
Exactly.
All right.
And that is basically done for administrative purposes.
Critical purposes. Okay. All right.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Okay. So as I'm saying, in one way or the other, okay, in security wise, AWS also recommends session manager, and they hardly recommend this. Like, this should rather be implemented rather than the base station. Okay, why so? Because session manager, you don't need to expose any port. You don't need any public IP. Oh, please, kindly mute yourself. Who is that? Akosia, please, kindly mute yourself. Thank you. Okay, so with session manager, we don't need any instance here. We don't need this one. We don't need this one. Okay, let me delete this. Okay. We don't need this one. Right? All we need is session manager. So what session manager does is it gives you the access for you to be able to also connect it to your instances within the private subnet. Okay. And that is what exactly we are going to do. Okay. All right. So let's jump in and then start our project. Okay. But before you can implement the session manager, you need what is called the session manager agent. Okay. But thanks to AWS, session manager agent is already installed in either Ubuntu, Windows, and all the instances, all the images within AWS is already installed. So we don't need to do that. Okay. So all we have to do is to just allow the session manager to assume a role to be able to access instances within our private subnet. Okay. So we are going to use the IAM to let session manager assume that role to be able to access the instances within our private subnet. Okay, so let's jump in. All right, so I'm in my region, that is AWS. So this is AWS. I'm in my region, US is 1. So first of all, I will jump into IAM. Oh, guys, sorry. I supposed to talk about the NAT gateway. Abi, you already understand NAT gateway. You already understand NAT gateway, right? Right? Okay, so as I said earlier, what the NAT gateway does is now these private subnet instances, okay, should be able to download something from the internet. And here's the case that your private instances within the private subnet doesn't have any public IP address to be able to go out of the what? Out of your VPC, right? So this is where NAT gateway comes in. So NAT gateway is a component that allows your private instances to be able to, okay, to be able to route to the internet, but not from the internet to the private subnet. Do you get me? with NAT gateway, it will help your private instances to be able to outbound. That is, it will move from your private instances to the internet. So you can download anything from your internet, but you can't connect from the internet to your private instance. And that is what NAT gateway does. So NAT gateway is all the time being deployed within the public subnet. Okay, and this is one of the interview questions they will ask you. Where will you deploy your NAT gateway? And you have to confidently say that NAT gateway is being deployed in your public subnet. Okay, let's jump in. Right, so I'll look for rules. Okay, and then I'll create a rule, and I'm going to use an AWS services. Okay, and what service am I going to use? EC2, right? Okay, so there is a rule called EC2 rule for AWS System Manager. So I'll select this one, and I'll go to next. And then this is actually the rule or the policy, okay, that has been already created for you. So it is called Amazon SSM, that the session managed instance call. Okay, so this will just assume the role. The session manager will assume this role to be able to connect to your EC2 instance. So I'll click on next. Then I will name my role name. I'll say SSM underscore EC2. Okay, SSM underscore EC2. And then I'll create rule. Okay. So the first thing we have to do is to deploy our VPC. So guys, we already know how to create a VPC, configure a VPC, configure private subnet, configure public subnet, create a route table, associate your internet gateway to your VPC, and also associate your route table to your subnet, public subnet or private subnet, right? So in this case, because of time, I will select the automatic VPC. Okay. So with automatic VPC, I will select the number of availability zones. That is going to be 2 availability zones. Okay. It is recommended or it is required that when you are deploying an application, at least for higher availability, use 2 availability zones or more, right? A single availability zone, okay, is not recommended. That is, if your server crashes or if something goes on within that availability zone, is in that people will not be able to, users will not be able to access your server because it is down. But if it is 2 and then 1 availability zone is down, okay, ALB is intelligent enough that, hey, availability zone 1 is down, so use availability zone 2. Okay, so that is good. Okay, so we are going to use the 1A and then 1B. Perfect. And the number of private subnets. Okay, it is recommended that you use 4. 2 will be for our private application layer, and then 2 will also be used for the database layer. And then as we do, you guys, you see the preview here. Okay, so what you select, it will be generated for you here. Okay. All right. Okay, so NAT gateway. So as I said earlier, you need a NAT gateway. But before we come back to NAT gateway, let's adjust this. I'm coming. So here I'll type 3 tier. So let's name our 3 tier. So let's 3 tier VPC. Okay. And this is our CIDR block. Okay. All right. So we come back to customize the subnet CIDR blocks. Okay. So here I'll customize it. Okay. So here I will use 1 and then 24 just for 256 IPs. Okay. So this is basically your public subnet. Okay. So 2 then /24. Then we come to our subnet, private subnet, that is application layer subnet. Then we give a space that is 10. Okay. Just 24. Then the availability B, we give it 11. Okay. 24. Then we stretch it again to the database layer. Then we give this one 20, 24. Then 21 for the availability zone 2, 20, 21. Okay. Okay. Then here we select one. In fact, you need to select one per availability zone, right? So NAT gateway in a real environment, you need to deploy one per availability zone. Okay. So each availability zone will have one NAT gateway that will be deployed in the subnet area for your private subnet instances. But in this case, because it's just a project, I'll just use one in one availability zone. Okay, so I'll just choose one. Here I will select non-VPC endpoint. Okay, so here I can still work around this one. So let me remove the auto. Okay, so let me remove the auto so that I can simply find this one properly. Okay, so I'll say thread here. So thread here VPC. Okay, so the first one is our public subnet. Okay, public subnet in availability zone 1, right? 1A. Okay, so I'll say so public subnet. So I'll say this is the web, right? Or let's say ALB. Let me use ALB here. Then 1A. That is 1A, availability zone 1A. So this is a public subnet for. I'll copy this one, then I come and paste it here for ALB for the availability zone 2, right? So I'll say this is B, right? Then I'll come here, paste it here. Then this will be our first private subnet. Okay, 4. This is going to be the app layer. Okay, in the same subnet, right? Then I'll paste this one. Then I'll say this one is B. Okay, then I'll paste this one again, and this one is going to be the data. So I'll say DB. That's the database layer. Okay. And this is going to be availability zone B. Guys, you see. So naming conventions is very important, because maybe in a real world you may have multiple VPCs that you'll be managing. So you should be able to separate and also know which subnet is for which VPC and all the stuff, right? It becomes easier for you to navigate. Okay, so this is our private. And guys, you see, if I match the public subnet, you see where it goes, right? So it gives us the trace that this is indeed the route. Okay, so this is the first public subnet. Okay, So this is a public route. So public route. So I'll say public route table. So I'll use this one. And I'll say 1A. Okay. Okay. Then I'll say private. So private private ALB, sorry, private route ALB. Sorry, this is our private, sorry. So this is going to be app. Okay. 1A. Okay, so let me copy this. And this is going to be the app 1B. Okay. And this is the database routes, private routes. So I'll say DB A, and then this is the DB 1B. Okay, perfect. So we come back to your network connection. So this is where the internet gateway comes in. So this route public will be routed to the internet gateway, right? So I'll say INT, that's internet underscore GW gateway. And this is where all the 4 private networks will connect to. So you can see the NAT gateway. So I'll say NAT underscore GW NAT gateway. So now I have simply named my VPC. And then all we have to do is to check it. Okay. So we are good to go. And then we click on create VPC. So this will automatically what? Create the VPC. So you see, guys, instead of we to configure it one by one and assign route to a subnet and all the stuffs, you can automatically. But you don't need to do this if you don't understand. Otherwise, you may not understand what you're doing. If a problem comes and you need to go in and then check it or fix it, you won't be able to do that. But we have been able to go through VPC. We've created VPC last week. We're able to assign and associate all the stuff. So now we know how to do it, right? Okay, so that's great. Now, let's quickly go into our database. Okay, so we have a service called RDS. Okay, manage relational database. So let me open this in a different browser. So whilst our VPC is being created, let's see if it is done. Okay, so it's still creating. All right. The first thing you have to do when you are creating an RDS or a database, okay, so this is a relational database, a structured relational database. Okay, the first thing you need to do is to create a subnet group. So this will define where your database, the subnet it belongs to, right? Okay, so we go ahead and create our database. I will name my database so three tier SG. Sorry, three tier DB group, subnet group. I'll copy this one and I'll paste it as a description. Here we choose our VPC that we are going to work with, or we are going to deploy our VPC or database to, right? So in this case, it is 3 tier. So guys, you see why the naming is very important. So you may be having a lot of VPCs, but you may not know which one, right? So here it is 3 tier. So I'll select the 3 tier VPC. Okay. Then within the 3-tier VPC, we have subnets, right? So add the subnet. So choose availability zone. So we choose 1A and then 1B. Okay. Which of the subnets? So now we have a lot of subnets. That is the 1 and then 1B, right? So which subnet are we deploying our database? So our database will be deployed in the private subnet DB. So this is the first one. So this gives an easy way, or it makes it easy for you to locate your subnet groups and all the stuff. And then the second one was what? Subnet, private subnet DB1B. So this one. Okay, so private subnet DB1A and then 1B in availability zone 1 and then 1B. And then we create. Okay, so we need to go ahead. Once our subnet group has been created, let's go to the databases and create our first database. So I'll go to create database. Okay. And here I will select, so there are a lot of databases. We have the Aurora databases, that the AWS own databases. You have MySQL, Postgres, and all the AWS stuff, which is Microsoft SQL Server. So here we will select the MySQL. Okay, we select MySQL. And then here, it is being given to us a free tier. Okay, so with a free tier, we only have what is called a single DB. Okay, a single DB. So with free tier, you'll not be able to. Sorry, with a free tier, you'll not be able to. That is deploy you only have one availability zone. Okay, so just note it. But in a real environment, you'll be using either the dev or test or the production. Okay, so you should be able to test it first before you use the production. Yes. So I will name my DB instance identifier my DB. Okay, so my DB, and then this name should be you should be able to record these names, okay, so that you will not forget, because we'll be connecting to the database endpoint and all the stuff. Okay, so master username, I'll use the admin. Self-manage, yes, so we will just type our own password. Okay, so in this case, I'll use admin 1 2 3 4. It's not all that strong, but it's recommended to use a strong password. Admin 1 2 3 4. Okay, so he's saying it is weak, right? Yes. So guys, just note it. Okay, so let me add this and see. Okay, so it's still weak. So let me leave that. Let me leave it that way. Okay, so set up an EC2. So do not connect to an EC2 compute. Okay, fine. So there are a lot of stuff that has been missing from here. Okay. Let me see this one. Okay, guys. I think with my access, I'm not able to get certain things from here, because you should be able to select the VPC and also the security group that we have created. Okay, to this database. You understand? But I think we are having a less, so we won't be able to create this database. Okay, so what I have to do is, guys, sorry for this. Okay, so let me use my, So I'll come back to this. Okay. So let me use my personal account, then let's deploy this. Okay. Because we may not be able to use this. Okay. So let me log out first. Wow. Guys, sorry for the inconvenience. Yeah, I think that account that we are having has a lot of, because of the free tier, we have less privileges, and there are certain things we can access. Okay, so let's use this account that I've just logged in. Okay, so I'll go straight to the VPC and then start all over again. So with this one, you understand how the naming goes, right? So this one, I will tweet it because of time. I will just tweet it so that you guys will know. Since we've deployed there, you know how it works. So in case you are doing that, just make sure to do it that way. Okay. So I will skip all those namings that I did here. Okay. So, but when you are doing it on your own, kindly use what I used earlier so that it will help you yourself. Okay. So I will use so 1A, 1B. Okay. So 2, so 4 availability zones. Okay. So 1, 24. Okay, so 24. Okay, so 10, 24, 11, 24, 20, 24, 21, 24. I'll select one nuts. Okay, none. Okay, okay. So here, because of time, I will not be able to edit all this kind of stuff, right? Time is fast spent. Okay, but me, I know that probably there is public one, private two, public two. Okay, 1 and 2. So it's going, the private is going to be 1 to 4, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my app layer for private 1 and 2, and I'm going to use my database for 3 and 4. Okay. So just take note. All right. So I'm done. Let me create my VPC. Okay. So the next thing that we have to do, okay, before creating the database is go to your security group. Your security group is very important, right? Okay, so let's create a new security group. So first here, I'll say 3 tier. 3 tier. The first security group is going to be ALB, right? The application load balancer, SG security group. I'll copy, paste it here. Then I'll select the 3 tier VPC. Okay. Then I'll add the inbound rule. The port is going to allow. We are going to only allow port 80 for our web server. Okay. Then I'm going to allow everyone to be able to access. So when I'm done, I'll give you the link for you to also access my web, right? Okay. So application load balancer security group is created. Let's create it. So let's create another one for the app layer. So I'll paste this one, and then this one is going to be the app SG. I'll select the VPC again, add a rule, and then this is going to allow only HTTP, right? And our app is going to allow only the ALB from the ALB group. Okay, so you won't be able to access the ALB, won't be able to access our app application instance, okay, our app layer, unless you are coming from what? The ALB, right? So we select the ALB. Okay, then we create our last security group. That is our DB security group. So I'll name this one DB. Now paste it here. I'll select our thread tier VPC. Then I'll add a rule. And then this is SQL, right? So I'll select my SQL, that is MS SQL, or my SQL rule, this one. So that is port 3306. Okay. And this is going to allow what? The app. So thread tier. So guys, the ALB allow the app, okay, and the app allow the ALB, okay, and this database is going to allow the app, right? So from ALB, you can channel to our app layer, then from the app layer, we can channel to our DB. So it is only the app layer that can speak to the DB. That's what we have done here. Okay, then we create the security group. Okay, so we are done with our security group. So guys, let's head into our RDS, that is our database. So first of all, we need to create a security group, as I said. Okay, so let me delete this one. Okay, so create a new security group. I'll say thread here. So thread here, SG. I'll select my VPC. I'll select my availability zone 1A and B. Then I'll select the subnet. So guys, so with this one, our database, as I said earlier, because of time, I was not able to name my distance, right? So me, I know that I'm going to deploy my with availability zone 1, I'm going to deploy it in what? The private 3. Okay, and then 4, this one. Okay, so private subnet 3 and 4 is going to be for my DB. Okay, great. All right, so I'll select the database, and here we can create our database. Okay. All right, so guys, I'll select my SQL. Okay, and here all I have to do is the engine version is already selected. It will select the current. So guys, so you see with this account, I have access to the production, to the dev test. Okay, so with production, you'll be able to have the multiple availability zones data cluster, right? And then dev also, you can also select multiple AZ. But with the sandbox, which is the free tier, you can only select this one. So it only have one primary instance. Okay, so I'll select this one for now because this is just a project. I'll just select this one. Okay, then here I will name this one my DB. Then the username for the database is admin. Credential management, self-manage. Yes, I want to use my own password. So admin 1 2 3 4, admin 1, 2, 3, 4. I know it's a weak password. Yes, fine. Okay, so this is going to use the DBT micro. Okay, fine. And then the storage type, the general purpose, fine. Connectivity to the compute resources, no. So virtual private cloud. So this is where we need to select our VPC. So these options were not available in that account, right? Okay, so I'll select my VPC. And then automatically it generates our security group that we created first, right? Okay. Public access. So does this DB has a public access? No, because we are deploying this in our EC2, sorry, in our private subnet. So private subnet may not have or doesn't assign a public IP address. So you can read it from here. Okay, so we are deploying our private subnet. So no. So choose an existing security group. Okay, so we select this one. So here we select the DB. So 3-tier DB SG. So guys, you see the naming is very important. So we select this one for our DB. Availability zone. So because we chose the single, this one is going to deploy only in a single availability zone, right? So I will choose my default. Okay, where is it? Okay, so I'll choose 1A. So that's where the DB will lies. Okay. Then I'll just, so additional configuration. So this is the port 3306. Okay, my SQL, this is the port that is listened to. Okay, so just leave it the same. Okay. An additional configuration. So initial database name. So here I will name my database my DB, the same thing. Okay, so my DB. And I will not do anything from here again. I'll just create the database. Okay, so this will take a minute, let's say 5 minutes. Okay, so when our database is ready, we will see that our endpoint is ready from here and our ports also will be ready from here. So now that we have created our database, okay, so let's jump into ALB. Okay, so where can we find ALB? That is EC2. But before we do our ALB stuffs, guys, let me create the session manager because I didn't create it in this account. I haven't created it in this account, right? So IAM. So I'll go to rows. I'll go to create a row. Okay, here WS services. Here I'll select which services that we are going to deal with. We are going to deal with EC2. And then here I'll select EC2 row for the system manager. Okay, then I'll click on next. Then we'll see the row or the policy. Then I'll click on next. Then here I will name my row name SSM underscore EC2. Okay. Or okay, yes, so SSM EC2. Okay. Then all I have to do is to create the row. Okay. So now let's jump into EC2. EC2. Okay. So before we create a load balancer, so this is load balancer, right? Before we create a load balancer, we need what is called a target group. Okay. So someone will say, what is a target group? Guys, so a target group, okay, it's what defines or it allows your ALB, that is your load balancer, that is, it groups which instances your load balancer should have access to. Okay, so you may be having a lot of instances, right? But with this target group, we specify that, hey, when you access the load balancer or when people comes in through the load balancer, please forward this traffic to this group of instances. Okay, so that is exactly what we are going to do. So first of all, before we create our load balancer, you need the target groups. Okay, so I'll create a target group, and our target group is what? An instance. Okay, there's also an IP address, there's also a Lambda function and all the stuffs when you are creating a serverless application. So in this case, we are going to deal with an instance. Okay, so here I will name my target group threads here. Why? Okay, so threads here, target group. Okay, then the protocol is HTTP and the HTTP is port 80. That is fine. So which VPC are we dealing with? So here I will select my threads here VPC. And then we have the health check protocol. Okay, so as I said earlier, ALB, okay, will distribute your traffic across your instances or across multiple availability zones. And how does it work? Or how does the ALB do such magic? Okay, it does what is called the health check. So it is able to check which instances within which availability zone is much healthy. Okay, so assuming, so where's my drawing? Okay, so assuming this availability zone, okay, has, let's say, 2 users that has been connected to this availability zone. ALB is intelligent enough that, hey, this zone, okay, has enough traffic, but this one is idle. Okay, so the next user that will be connected, the ALB will be intelligent enough to connect it to this availability zone rather than this one. So always this one becomes what? More healthy than this one. Why? Because people are accessing this server. So always it makes sure that it is 50-50. I don't know if you understand. If one is connected to this one, then we assume that now this is no more 100%, it is 90%. By this is 100%. Okay, so the next user that will connect should not connect to the 90%, but should connect to the 100%, because this is much healthy than this one. So it's able to distribute the traffic evenly across. Okay, guys, I hope do you guys understand the scenario?
So it means that it is distributing the load, the traffic, so that one availability zone does not suffer so much compared to the other.
Exactly.
And if I also get you, it is to ensure availability.
Sure.
Because if one of the zones is so occupied,
busy,
so automatically the load balancer will redirect or will reroute other instances to
yes,
the
exactly.
other zone that is a bit free.
Yes, exactly. Thank you guys. So in the application that I'm going to work with, in the application there is a, okay, so let me get to, so now we are going to work with this application. Okay, so this is sitting in my GitHub account. I'll give you the distance. It is also public, so you can connect to it, and I'll be expecting you guys to work on it. So it's a project that I'm going to give it to you guys, but I'm just taking my time to go through with you guys how to set it up so that you'll be able to do it on your own, right? Okay, so when we get to this this repository, GitHub repository, on the section 8, okay, you will see a Vagrant Studio source code, right? Or a resource file. You come to the Vagrant source code here, okay, and then you see version 5. And then when you click on the version 5, you see what is called the health HTML. Okay, so we have the DB file. We also have the customer recipe HTML and all the stuff. All the script and all the applications that is needed for the application to run, it is here. But we have another file that is called the health HTML. So the health HTML simply gives you or help the ALB to understand which instances is more healthy. Okay, so it gives you the health status. Okay, so in this case, I will just paste it here. So health.html. Okay, so this is the path that the ALB is going to use to the target group to check if your app is healthy or not. Okay. Okay. So I'll go to next. And then targets, we don't have any targets. So I'll click on next. And then it will create the group. Okay. Right. So guys, you see. So now we have 0 healthy. We don't have any target for now. We have 0, and then our healthy, we have 0. Okay. So we go to the load balancer here. Then we create our load balancer. So with the load balancer, we have application load balancer, we have a network load balancer, and then gateway and all the stuff load balancers. Okay. But in this scenario, we'll be using application load balancer. Why? Because we are dealing with application, not network. Okay. So with application load balancer, I'll click on create. And here I will name my application load balancer 3-tier. So 3-tier. 3-tier app. Okay. Okay. So now our application balancer, is it internet facing? Yes, it is internet facing. So I won't select internal, I'll select internet facing. Okay. Which VPC are we dealing with? So the 3-tier, I'll select the 3-tier. Availability zones. Okay, so we have the 1A. Okay, so now we are dealing with the presentation layout, boss. Guys, we are dealing with the application ALB, this one, the first one. Okay, so which subnets are we deploying this? So this should be the public, right? So the first one is this one. The availability zone is the 1. And then the availability zone B should also be the public, this one, 2. Okay, perfect. Security group. So which security group? So we have the app security group and ALB security group. So this one, that's the ALB. That is where the ALB lies. Port. So automatically it is HTTP and it's port 80. Forward to target groups. So this is where we need to specify which target group it has to forward to. So that is why it is important to create a security group. Other than that, you need to come and add a security group first. Okay, but we have already created it. So here I will select this one, 3-tier TG, that is target group. I'll select this one. Okay. All right. So in a real environment, there will be other firewall application security services that you would like to also recommend so that your company can also use it. And the one of the distance is called the WAF, Web Application Firewall. Okay. So what this does is it helps your application, okay, to block some certain or create a security what is called a site scripting. Okay, so there are some security measures, okay, that the web application firewall will be able to use to block site scripting and all the stuffs. Okay, so it is good to, in a real environment, it is recommended to use these services along. All right, so I'll create the load balancer. Right, we're getting an error. What it is? Okay, hyphen. Okay, so let me remove this one. Okay. and I'll create load balancer. Okay, so our load balancer is successfully created. Okay, so now what else? So now this architecture, okay, this architecture, we have now been able to do the application load balancer, right? But there is also another service called auto scaling. That is scalability. Okay, so what is scalability? Scalability is able to scale your app. That is, what about if your app, okay, within these availability zones, okay, something happens your app, okay, or if one is unhealthy, right? Or assuming the load that comes into your instances cannot stand it anymore. Your app cannot stand it, and there's a lot of load in both availability zones. Okay, so now let me use let's say let's say school management, for example. You know that school management is more like a seasonal application software, right? So in this case, when students are in school, right, they have more access to the application. So I would say that there will be more traffic on that very application, right? And also when students are vacated from school, so it means that they don't have any much access to the web application. That is, they won't do more on the web application or student application, right? So it means that traffic will come down. So auto scaling, what auto scaling does is, one, it gives you more performance. Two, it reduces cost, because now the instances that you are deploying, okay, these instances contains a CPU resources, memory. So when you are even choosing an instance or a type of instance, you should even consider the type of instance that you are deploying, right? So assuming you are deploying a T2 micro, T2 micro has what is called 1 GB or 1 megabyte. Okay, so if 1 megabyte, there's a lot of traffic, 1 megabyte will not be able to handle the traffic. There will be your machines will become slow and people will not be able to access the application, right? So what will auto scaling does, or what will auto scaling do to your instances? Well, what the auto scaling will do is, there is a way you can configure your auto scaling in such a way that, hey, if there is a traffic or more traffic, or if your memory is up to, let's say, 80% full, okay, deploy another EC2 instance that will be attached to it. So in this case, assuming we have one EC2 instance in one availability zone. So in this case, we have two instances, right? So we are saying that, hey, run two instances at the same time, right? But what about if these two instances, the load is more, and then this EC2 instances cannot stand the load that is coming? Okay, that is where auto scaling will auto scale your instances, okay, and then generate another instances within that availability zone, and then that's the same within this one. So what it does is, it gives freedom to your previous EC2, so that instead of two, now it has become four, so that the ALB will be able to share it across the four. Then you'll be able to what? Your application will be accessible. That is called the scalability. So the scalability option is able to either scale up or scale down your EC2 instances. But in AWS, we have two types of scalability. We have what is called the horizontal scalability or auto scaling, and then vertical. So what the vertical does is, the vertical will just tell you that, hey, Charlie, if you are using 1 GB of instances, okay, and then there's a lot of load, auto scale to, let's say, 8 GB of instance. Just kill that one and then use 8. You get it? And then the horizontal auto scaling. What is that? Is, hey, you are using 1 GB of instance, okay? So if you become 4, okay, create another 1 GB of instance and attach to the previous that we have. So in this case, it has become 2 instances that has 1 here and then 1 here. So now it becomes 2 GB that will be accessible. Guys, do you understand? So the vertical, what is that? Is it only use these 2, but rather it will just increase the sizes, okay, of your instance type. But the horizontal will deploy more of EC2 instance rather than using the previous or increasing the resources of the previous instance. Okay, is it understandable? That's great. So let's move on.
Of course.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm only
Hello.
responding to your statement.
Pardon?
I was only responding to your statement, please.
Oh, okay. So that's understandable, right?
Okay, sir.
Okay, come in.
So does the auto scale come in only when the load balancer is overwhelmed or they work independently?
Yes, so they work independently, but in one way or the other, they work together. Because the duty of the ALB is to just distribute traffic across, right? That's the
Okay.
job of the ALB. But the auto scaling is responsible for, hey, checking the health of the instance. If the instance is much loaded, hey, add another instance to it so that your EC2 instance can be able to withstand the load that is coming in. What about if the students goes home and no one is accessing the distance, the application instances, right? So auto scaling will just reduce the number of instances to 2 to the normal state. And if there's a lot of load, it will increase the instances as well. So it helps you to reduce cost. You understand? Because if you choose one instance that, hey, I may not know people that will be accessing mine. It is this application is web, right? It's all over the internet. So if you go and choose an instant type that has, let's say, 8 gig that can withstand, let's say, all traffic that will come in, you will pay according to the 8 gig, whether people are accessing the application or not. You will pay, right?
Yeah.
But with auto scaling, if you are even using 1 gig, okay, and then people began to start accessing your application, and then it cannot withstand the application. What it does is it will just add another instance to it so that it can support it. You understand?
Okay.
And
Yes.
then you pay according to when those spikes went up, or those spikes, or that season where people were accessing that, and then when that season goes off, it comes back to its normal state.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So this is auto scaling group, and this is where we are going to deploy it. But before you auto scale group, auto scale needs what is called the launch application. Sorry, launch template. So now, if an auto scaling is scaling your instance or it is deploying your instance, it needs a launching point. That is, which instances should I use to launch it? Assuming by mistake your instance that you are, or let's say your application that you are serving online is deleted, or something happens to it and it crashes, how will the system know that, hey, this is the exact application that you are using on, so that people can have access to? So that is where the launch template comes in. So the launch template contains the actual instances or the instance type you are going to use, okay, to deploy this service or this application. So it serves as a blueprint that, hey, anytime you want to add an instance, use this template. So that template will contain your type of EC2 that you are going to use, the type of RAM, the user data, the script that you are going to use, everything. I hope you get me. So anytime auto-scaling is launching, it will launch from that template. Okay, so all I have to do is to create a launch template. Then I will name my launch templates. Threads here. TP, that is LP, launch templates. So I'll copy this one, paste it here. Okay. So what else? So that is also here. What you can do is you can even go to EC2 create and then create what is called the AIM, okay, or IAM, that is Amazon Machine Instance. Oh, sorry, Amazon Machine Image, right? And then later on you can come back to this one and do it, but we can still do a quick start. So I'll select the quick start and then select Amazon Linux. You can use any image here. Okay. Okay. So key pair. So guys, we are not going to use any SSH. We are going to use the system manager, as I told you guys. So we are not going to use any key pair. But in a real environment, it is good to also add a key pair to it. Okay. Because if in case of anything, you can't have access to your distance, you can use the key pair too. But in this case, because we are using session manager, I'm not going to use any key pair. All right. So availability zones and all the stuff, we won't do it here. We'll do it at the ALB level. Security group, okay. So this is auto scaling or launch template, and we are going to launch the issue instances in the application layer. So this is the layer, that is where we are going to launch our application. Okay. So we will select which security group. Someone should help me. Which security group? Which security group are we selecting? Okay, so we are selecting. Yes. So we are selecting 3-tier app. That's where it belongs. Sure. Thank you, guys. Sure. Okay. So we are done. Okay. Here I'll click on advanced and IAM instance profile. Okay. Here I'll select the SSM. So this is where our SSM comes in. So here I'll select SSM EC2 so that we'll be able to use the session manager to have access to our EC2 instance and do any update from it. Okay. Then we'll scroll down. Then user data. So this is where we will upload our script. Okay. So this is GitHub. That is where our application lies, right? So we are going to, if you go to the version 5, okay, or resource file, go to the resource file, you see user data script, okay? So there's this script that I have written. We are going to just paste it. So what it does is, sudo DNF. So this is using the YAM package or DNF package. That is Amazon Linux image. So to just update the packages, then install Git. So what this one is going to do is it will install Git, okay, and then it will also install Apache, and then also PHP, and then MariaDB. Okay, so this script is going to install all these three things into that very instances. Okay, and then it will enable the HTTPD, that is Apache, and then start the Apache. Okay, and then it will add the EC2, this EC2 user, it will add it to the Apache group. Okay, and then we'll give the EC2 some privileges or access levels, okay, to be able to find this root, okay, or this directory within the instances, okay. Then it will cd into the that is in the home. After it has done all these things, it will come back, that it will cd into the user home folder, then it will git clone. So this is going to clone our GitHub, okay. So if you can see, this is George 848 AWS 3-tier app git. So this is it. So GitHub, you see, George 848 AWS 3. So it's going to download, that is going to clone this one into that EC2, okay. And then when it clones it, it's going to cd into the version 5. So as I've told you, this is the script. So it's going to go into the version 5, as I told you. So this is version 5. That is where the app lies, okay, and it lies here. And then it will sudo move. That is, you have the system privileges to move all the files. So what it's going to do is, after it cd into the version 5 directory, it's going to move all the files, okay. That is all these 5, the CSS, font images, and all these DBs and all that stuff, into the HTTP, the HTML, okay. This is where the application runs. So www.html is going to move all this data into this directory, okay. And then when it does that, I've also add this, that it should clean up. So now we have copied or moved all those files, so we don't need this again. So what it's going to, it's going to cd back into the home, and then remove the application that we cloned, okay, and then it will just restart it. That is all. So this is the script. So I'm going to just copy the script, copy, come back to this, and then paste it within the user data. So anytime auto scaling is launching this application, it knows where it has to go to, okay. Okay, so let's create the launch template. So we are done. Okay, so view launch template. Okay, so our launch template is created. So now let's go straight to auto scaling group. Now that our launch template has been created, you can go ahead and then, so guys, so you see, so this is how it works. So auto scaling, okay, minimum size is 1. Auto scale out as needed, minimum size, desired capacity. So we are going to work on these ones, and then we will know how to do work around. So I'll type 3-tier app auto scale. Okay. Okay, so launching templates, where are we going to launch this? So I've already created one template just now. So I'll select this. Okay, then we click on next. Okay, so specify instance attribute. So here I'll select the manually add instance type. Okay, so here I'll select T2 micro. So let me use T2. So T2 micro. Okay. Okay. Then we move forward to the VPC. Okay, so here I'll select my 3-tier VPC, and the availability zones, I'll select the app layer. That is the app layer. That's where the auto scaling is going to work, right? So the app layer is indeed the 2, right? So the private subnet, the private subnet 1, and then private subnet 2. The 3 and 4 is for the database, right? Okay. So let me check 1 and 2. Okay, private. Okay, sure. And then we move on to Nest. Let me check something. Okay, so we move on to Nest. So load balancer. Okay, so we've already created a load balancer. So here we will select the attach your existing load balancer. Okay, so here we select attach your existing because we've already created existing. Choose from a load balancer target group. Okay, so here we select the target group that we created. Okay, so okay, so health checks. So we will turn on this one, turn on elastic load balancing with health checks. So it is recommended. So I'll check this one. It is optional though, but it is recommended. So that auto scaling will use the health check to be able to auto scale, either scale up or scale down. So I'll go to next. Okay, desired capacity. Now, what is desired capacity? Desired capacity is the capacity of instances that should always run. So my desire is that, hey, we are using 2 availability zones. So run 2 instances all the time for me. Okay. And then we also have what is called the minimum desired capacity. In fact, if I choose minimum desired capacity, my desired capacity is 2. So my minimum should be 2. If I use 1 here, it won't run in the minimum desired capacity 1. It will still run in the desired capacity 2 because the desired capacity is the capacity that it must always run. So the desired capacity must always go with your minimum desired capacity. And the maximum desired capacity is how, or is the number of instances you want to auto scale up to, the level you want to auto scale up to. You understand? Okay, so in this case, I want to auto scale up to, let's say, 4. That is, if the system receives a lot of load pressure or low traffic, you can auto scale up to, let's say, 4 instances. I can do 20, I can do 200. You can auto scale up to. That is, it depends on the number of traffic that comes in. So in this case, I'll say 4. Okay. So we are done. We click on next.
Sir, please, I have a question.
Okay. Come with your question, please.
Okay. So, as you chose the maximum desired capacity to be 4,
Okay.
does that mean that if the auto scaling is working, it wouldn't auto scale to like more than 4?
Exactly. So if you find out that, hey,
Okay.
even
What if the load?
Yeah, come in. Finish your
What if the
question.
load becomes more? What if the load becomes like more than 4, or like it needs like maybe 6 or 8, but then your maximum desired capacity is 4? Then what happens?
So as an engineer, you won't. It's not that when you finish deploying an application, that is all, you are done. You'll be doing what is called monitoring. Okay. So with your monitoring aspect, you will see that, hey, the spikes, the load that comes in, Charlie, we have a lot of customers, and so therefore application is being assessed worldwide, and we have a lot of users. So in this case, as an engineer, you'll be having a monitoring system that will monitor the traffic that comes in, right? So if you see that even 4 cannot handle, but you have already configured the 4, you need to come back into the auto scaling and come and change the desired capacity to either 6 or 8, according to the company's requirement.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So you can still come back and then come and change.
you.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So let me move on. Okay, so here, our time is running on. Here, you need to be, it is recommended to use a notification. So a notification is also a form of a monitoring that will alert you. If, let's say, an instance becomes unhealthy, how will you know? Because always you won't be always accessible, or you won't always open the console to know that, hey, this is what is happening, right? But you have an emails. So anytime a machine, or let's say there is a load, and then Autoscale comes in and then increase your instances, you will receive a notification by email. So that is where you will know. So this add up to our sister's question that she asked. This will add up as a form of a monitoring to be able to know that, hey, Charlie, we have reached our maximum level, and then there has been an auto scaling that is going on, right? So you can go in there and check what is happening, and then you can feedback your management about it. So you can add a notification. So let's add a notification. So I'll add a topic. Okay. So it seems that I've already created a topic here. Okay. So let me add this. Or you can create a topic, right? Should I create a new topic? Okay, let me create a new topic. Okay, so three, let me use. So let's reach here. ALB. App. Okay. And this is where you add your recipients, the admin. So this is where you add your email, right? And this is the event types. So when it launches, you receive a notification. When it terminates, you receive a notification. When it failed to launch, you also receive a notification. Fail to terminate, you receive a notification. So it depends on what you want to select, right? So I want to select all these things, and I'll click on next. Let me add a tag so that it will be simple. So let's say trade here. Why do I always do? So trade here. So trade here app. Okay. And I'll click on next. So guys, we are done. So create auto scaling. Okay, so guys, let's quickly check our EC2 instance. So EC2. So we will see that instances. Quick. So this is what I wanted. Okay, so now you've seen that it has automatically launched 2 instances because our desire was 2, right? So now it has started. So auto scaling will automatically start your instances, will scale your instances, generate or launch instances for you. So let's wait for a while. So let's go to auto scale. So instances is 2. So now 2 is running. Okay. So now let's go to target groups, our load balancer. Let's see what is happening. So I'll click on load balancer. And here we see 2 target. So 2 target has been added, and this is the 2 target. So guys, see, immediately one has become healthy, one has become unhealthy. So it means that this is one is running. So if I go to EC2 instance right now, I need to see one that is running. So let me refresh. Okay, so now the 2 are running. So now let me go back to target group and see if they are healthy or not. Okay, so the update is not yet done. So I'll just refresh and see. So one is healthy, one is unhealthy. Okay. All right. So one is healthy, one is unhealthy. Let's see. Guys, a minute. Okay, sorry guys. Someone was calling me. Okay, so let's find out. Let's refresh. So one is unhealthy, one is healthy. Okay. So let's see. So let's go back to load balancer. This is our load balancer. Guys. Okay, sorry guys. All right. So now this is our load balancer. So how can we access this our web? So I'll click on the DNS. Then I'll need to paste my DNS here. Okay, so our services, let's see what is happening. Target group, target, still one is on healthy. Target group. Okay, so now 2 is healthy now. So all the 2 are healthy. So guys, you can see, right? So if I go to load balancer, I click on this one and I go to resource map. So guys, you see, so this is our resource. So users will access the port 80, that's the HTTP, then it will forward to the target group. So which is the target group? So it is able to find the target group 1, okay? And that is our 3-tier target group. And then it forward to these 2 instances here. Okay, so let's check. Our app must run. So let's go back to load balancer. Okay, this is our DNS name. So I'll copy this one again. I'll close this one, paste this one. So guys, let's wait a minute. Okay. Okay. So how is our this thing not running? So it means, so customer. Guys, I'm coming in. So this within this VS code, there is this HTML, but our this thing is supposed to run. So what is happening? Because our this thing is active, it is running as it is. It is able to find our health status, and the health check is done. So it's supposed to show. Guys, a minute. So let me check my load balancer. So yes, so that is 1 and 2. Okay. Okay, so guys, let me click on the load balancer again. Let me paste. So our distance is not okay. So let me auto scale. Okay, so let me where is the let me go to EC2 instance. Okay, let me terminate this instance and let's see if it will be able to recreate the instance. So I'm creating this, I'm just deleting this instance. So let's go to target groups. Let's see what will happen. So let me refresh. I think there's a place. Okay, so now one is healthy. Okay. Okay, so it has started initializing. Okay, so two should become unhealthy, but I don't know why. I think there's a setup that we needed to. This is 5 seconds. Okay, so let me edit this one and see something. So this one, see, 10 seconds. Let's see, 3 seconds. Okay, so one is unhealthy. Let's wait. Okay, so one is running. The two has already been terminated. One is running again. So additional one must come, right? Okay. Let's go to auto scaling group. So it is saying 3, but it's supposed to be 1. Okay, so 1 is healthy now. So additional one must come. Oh, okay. Okay, so one is on, so another one is also coming. I think because I use the 3-2 micro, that's why the health checks failed. So let me use my load balancer once again and let's see. Because our system is running normal and we're supposed to be able to access. So that is A and B. Which VPC are we using? Let me check. Yes, so that's the 3-tier VPC. Okay. 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 So let me recopy. Let me check my targets again. Where's my targets? So 2 is healthy now. Wow. Okay, guys. We're supposed to be able to reach our web application, but unfortunately, our server is not running. I don't know what is happening. But let's see something. Our time is fast spent. Let's go to EC2. Okay, EC2. Let me refresh this one. Okay, so 1A, 1B. Okay, let's see if the session manager will work. So let's connect to one. Which one are we connecting to? Okay, so let's connect to availability zone 1. Session manager. Okay, so we can connect to session manager now. Let's see what is happening. Okay, so we are in the session manager. So I'll sudo into our EC2. So EC2 user. Okay, we are in. So let's list. Let's see if the. Okay, so list the var. Okay, www. So this is the. Okay, so let's list and see. Okay, so yes, so we can see our health HTML has been deployed into the distance, right? So we should be able to access our distance, our customer H, because it is here. Okay, but I don't know why it's not able to. Everything is working fine. So it means that our system is using the NAT gateway to be able to clone from the internet. That is the GitHub. Okay, and then because of the script, it was able to remove or move everything to this server, right? Okay, so if you go to the one in session availability zone B, we should also see the same thing there. So we should be able to application load balancer should be able to load our distance for us, but unfortunately, it's not loading. And that is it. Okay. So guys, definitely this is how you'll be able to deploy a three-tier architecture, and this is how you will be able to deploy a three-tier web application. Okay, so you'll be using the DNS. I don't know, but why is this thing not? Guys, I'm coming. Let me check last one. Okay.
Could they have anything to do with the ports? I think we open port
Yeah.
80 years.
Yes, so we are accessing through port 80, right? That is the web. And then we allowed the SG, which is the security group, on port 80. So where is the ALB? So this is the ALB, this one, this security group. And this is port 80, right, guys? Yes. So you should be able to access. So let's see the load balancer. Security. So yes, it is using the three-tier ALB security group, right? And then yes, and then the target group, health check. So it's able to check the health, that is locate the HTML, health.html. Okay. If I click on this instance, fail to describe volume. The volume does not exist. Oh. So let me click. Terminated. How? Let me check something. Okay, so let me check this one. Okay. So this one is running, what is the security group? So SSM manager. So this is running the app, okay? And then the app is also accessing only from the ALB, this one. Okay, that is port 80. And that is what we have done. So it's supposed to work. It's supposed to work. Okay. Okay, guys. So because of time, I will just end here and then try to troubleshoot more and then see the way forward. Okay. Or will you guys allow me to redeploy it again if you want to? Because time is almost fast spent.
I suggest you troubleshoot it and maybe the next meeting you go over for us. You update us.
I second that. I second. The time is fast spent already. It's almost 10 p.m.
Okay, sure. So let me leave you guys, and then maybe
Okay,
we'll get back to this later. Yeah.
Uncle George,
Yes, please.
can you like more of like write a document on the steps that we follow? I mean, all these that you've done, share with us. It will be very helpful.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
George,
Welcome.
please, can I get the topic of what we did today?
Pardon?
Like the topic, maybe deploying or
Oh,
like.
it's just yeah. So it's a project that we are doing. It's a 3-tier web application project.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm just going to delete everything and then the auto skill and ALB, and then recreate the auto skill and ALB again. So all the best with you guys. We will meet.
That shall be well. We'll get there.
Yeah, sure.
Are you going to do it now?
As for me, I'm going to do it now, but I'll
Okay,
be
so
leaving you guys
do you
because of
mind?
time. Yeah.
Do you mind if like some of us stay, those who come, like if we want to
Okay,
watch?
sure. Okay, sure. So if you want to go, you can go.
Alright.
Okay. So guys, we have closed. So should I stop the recording?
I think you can record all so that maybe we can watch later.
Maybe it will be too long. So maybe.
Okay, you can do a new recording for this one.
Okay. So you have to stop the recording. All right.
The official recording, and then we can do.